Okay, we are back and again. Welcome back to John Sports Corner here on the SosoBone Media Network. And folks, again, you can go to YouTube, Sosofat TV, and go to John Sports Corner to see all the reports that we have done since last year. Continuing with cricket, South Africa fast bowler Kadija Rabada has been named in South Africa's squad for next month's World Test Championships after completing a 1-month ban for recreational drug use. He returned to the camp of his Indian Premier League team, Gujarat Titans, shortly before the suspension last week and looks set to face Australia at Lord's. Cameron Green, who has not played for Australia since suffering a lower back stress fracture during a one-day series in England last year, has been recalled by Australia for the Test Championships against South Africa. Also, Pat Cummins returns as Australia's skipper after missing the tour of Sri Lanka because of the birth of his second child.
Okay.
Moving to the fields of green and the world of football, FIFA announced the expansion of Women's World Cup from 32 to 48 teams beginning in 2031. The decision will see the women adopting the same format as men, which is set to adopt a 48-team format in 2026. The host nation for 2031 FIFA World Cup is yet to be decided. Ahead of Jamaica Reggae Boys is the Unity Cup in England, May 27th through the 31st. Jamaica will go up against Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, and Nigeria. It appears that several overseas players will not be available, so coach Steve McLaren is likely to focus on domestic talent and some young talent in England. Okay. Jamaica open against Trinidad and Tobago May 27th, and depending on their result, will play the winner or loser of the Ghana-Nigeria game. Mm-hmm. Jamaica, as you know, preparing for World Cup qualifiers that begin June 7th against British Virgin Islands and June 10th against Guatemala. Mm-hmm. Trinidad and Tobago also getting ready for World Cup qualifiers. They open against St. Kitts and Nevis June 6th, followed by Costa Rica June 10th. Jamaica Premier League. The Jamaica Premier League playoff round first leg game between Tivoli and Montego Bay United on Thursday at Sabina Park was called after 35 minutes when lights said good night and went to bed.
Oh, the sun went down.
Lights went out, Trevor. The game and the second game of the doubleheader had to be called. Well, and the games actually resumed at Stadium East on Friday evening, and Montego Bay came away with a 2-1 win. Owain Gordon and Jordan Fletcher tallied for Montego Bay United, while Roshan Oldfield scored for Tivoli. Game 2 of the doubleheader between Portmore and Cavalier ended in a 1-1 stalemate. Ronaldo Robinson gave Portmore the lead in the 25th minute, only to see Cavalier tie it up through Jerome McCleary 10 minutes later. The return legs of the doubleheader returned to Sabina Park on Monday, and in the opening game, a 97th minute strike by Dwayne Atkinson advanced Cavalier to the semi-final against Arnett Gardens, and that will be played tomorrow at Catherine Hall Complex in Montego Bay. Cavalier win the game 2-1 on goal aggregate, or win the tie 2-1 on goal aggregate.
Mm.
The second game between Montego Bay and Tivoli ended 1-1. So Montego Bay United win the two-game tie, 3-2 on aggregate, and so they advance to the semi-final and will play Mount Pleasant Thursday.
Okay.
Scores in the Jamaica Women's Premier League. Fraser's whip 7-0 over Mile Gully. Los Perfectos 9-0 over Springers United. Arnett Gardens 7-0 over Real Mobay. Proven Girls 2-0 over Federal United. And Wi-Fi defeated UWI 3-1. And after winning just one of their first 6 games, National Women's Soccer League Chicago Stars has seen enough of former Reggae Girls coach Lorne Donaldson
Mm.
as their head coach. He was in his second season with the Stars after winning 10, losing 14, and drawing 2 last year, and actually making the playoffs. Assistant coach Masaki Hemi will serve as interim coach.
Mm.
Cristiano Ronaldo says he is very proud of his eldest son, Ronaldo Jr., making his debut for Portugal's under-15s.
Mhm.
Young Cristiano came off the bench in the 54th minute in a Portugal 4-1 win over Japan in the Croatia Vlatko Markovic Youth Tournament. Portugal actually plays Greece today in game 2, and on Friday play England. It was reported that several European scouts were in attendance to watch young Ronaldo. You know, Trevor, Brazil had their Ronaldo and Ronaldinho.
Yes.
Will Portugal have their Ronaldo and Ronaldo Jr.? Or
Well,
will he be called Ronaldinho too?
but, but well, John, the attention, that's normally given to the sons of prominent players, whether it be cricket or basketball or baseball, is only being, played out now in soccer. And it will be a good conversation as analytics will be done of everything that this young man does in his first 10 games at least, whether the DNA is there or he's just a copy.
But what I find so interesting though, Trevor, that that great athletes, although sometimes their children will follow them and play the sport, never really amount to much. And we will have to really see what happens with this young Ronaldo if he eventually become a senior player for Portugal at some point.
It's a hard road to travel, John.
It is, because even at this under-15 level, he didn't start. He came off the bench.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the pressure that, they put on a junior is far more than the pressure that the senior had when they started. Because there's all this comparison that's taking place, and the analytics will be whether it is you're analyzing or you're criticizing.
Yeah.
Okay, and that type of pressure, not many of the offsprings are willing to really even put up with it, John.
Right.
Okay, and because in some cases, the criticism will be that he is not as good as players who, for example, were not chosen, but the fact that he was chosen is based on his pedigree. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we hear that and we see that on many occasions, basketball, baseball, football. You went to Yale and your father went to Yale. So when you go to Yale, you're going to play because your father played at Yale.
Yeah. You see what happened at the Lakers just now?
Oh, okay.
LeBron and son.
Okay.
And even go back in cricket, George Headley Although Ron Headley and what's her son in the bowler wasn't bad cricketers, they weren't great cricketers.
Right.
Shivna Ryan Chandapal is another example. His son is not he's an average, less than average cricketer as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and
You
he's under the microscope because they're comparing him.
Yeah.
They're comparing him to his father.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I think that you know, in baseball, it was the young man Riley Jr. In father played for the Reds, and Jr. was good.
And you know, earlier I mentioned Bobby Bonds.
Yes, Bobby.
Pretty good player. But then Barry comes along. Barry was a great player.
That's right.
You know. And maybe Barry was the odd one out. So follow his father became a great player. But you know, it's so often you see great players, their children really don't, if they play the same sport, really don't amount to much. And you know, Trevor, I think the what pushes a great player, and maybe he has made life comfortable now for his children,
right?
And then and they don't have the same desire to push, you know.
They don't have to worry about paying the rent or having a food.
You know, that they give you a gift of $1 million house or $20 million house. Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, let's move on across the pond, crossing the Atlantic to English Premiership on the weekend. As Everton 3-1 over Fulham, Brentford 1-0 over Ipswich, Southampton, and Manchester City in a 0-0 stalemate. Then you have Brighton 2-0 over Wolverhampton Wanderers, Aston Villa 1-0 over Bournemouth, Newcastle 2-0 over Chelsea, West Ham by the same score over Manchester United. United cannot buy a win, Trevor. Nottingham and Leicester in a 2-2 stalemate. Crystal Palace 2-0 over Tottenham, and Liverpool and Arsenal in a 2-2 stalemate. In Women's Super League, despite missing a chunk of the season for Manchester City, women because of injury, Reggae Girl captain Kadija Bonishaw ended the season tied for the most goals with 12 from 14 games. Arsenal's Alyssa Russo also ended 12 goals, but from 21 games, and it marked the second consecutive year that Kadija Bonishaw emerged the top goal scorer in the Women's Soccer League. I tell you what, let's go to another break, Trevor. And when we come back, we'll have netball, swimming, and we will travel across the Caribbean. So we'll be back.